is Gabriel Naspinski here for Elite FTS, and I'm interviewing Buddy Morris. Buddy, why don't you go ahead and give a quick introduction in case anyone's not familiar with you at this point?
First of all, I am the infamous Coach X. It's nice to see Gabe with a full head of hair. Last time I saw him, he had none. I've been doing this since 1980, Gabe. I started with head coach Jackie Sherrill at the University of Pittsburgh from 80 to 90. I left in 90 when my oldest daughter was placed on a liver transplant list. So from 90 to 97, I worked in a hospital wellness clinic and physical therapy department, which where I started to really learn and hone my rehab skills. 97, the University of Pittsburgh called me, asked me to come back. I went back to 2001. 2001, I received a call from Butch Davis. They asked me to come to the Cleveland Browns. I went to the Cleveland Browns. 2004, obviously NFL not for long. We all got let go. I had a year left on my contract, kind of sat around for a year, that semi-retirement thing. Wound up at the University of Buffalo under Turner Gill for 6 months. Worked for a grade A athletic director named Ward Manuel. Met my wife there. And then got a call to come back to the University of Pittsburgh in the end of 2006 season. So I went back. I convinced my wife that we could go back and I could retire there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that wasn't the case, which wasn't coach's fault. It was just some underhand activity by some other people that I won't get into because I don't have to go on a rant for you. But during the time, my last 3 years, my last tour at Pitt, Paul Rhodes offered me the Iowa State job. I was on the final two with Mike McCarthy and the Green Bay Packers, and was actually offered a Washington Redskins job by Mike Shanahan. I stayed at Pitt because my youngest daughter, Claire, was going to nursing school for free. So that weighed heavily on my mind. I also had a stepson with my new wife. We had just moved to Pittsburgh. He had tragically watched his father pass away from cancer. I just didn't feel it was the right move at that time. Oh, okay. Now you look back at it, I should have gone to Washington. Mm-hmm. But, as a parent, you do things for your kids first. You know that. Yeah. Well, no, you don't know that. You have no kids.
I guess since you've worked in the 3 different sectors, collegiate, professional, now with New York Sports Center, what would you say are the plus and minuses of each one?
Oh boy, they all have their own benefits and drawbacks. Obviously, working in the NFL, that's the highest level of what we call the process of obtaining sports mastery for the sport that we're involved in, which is football. It's a true pleasure to work for those guys. But I've always said, training elite guys like training the beginning athlete, because you train them the same. It's very general in nature. They're going to get better at their sport by doing their sport. So you can't compete for the same CNS resources that they're using in the development of their sporting or continuing to progress in their sporting activity in the weight room because they can't handle it. In the beginning athlete, they're just learning the skill. They're just learning the sport. They're in that first stage of motor learning, unconscious incompetent. They have no idea what's going on. There is no sporting form in high school. It's just line up and get in somebody's way. But you still train them very general because they've never done anything before. They're novices, so they're going to respond to just very, very general activity. College I love because you have more control. You're dealing and shaping young men. The private sector, I'm not a fan of the general public. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, after my contract ran out with the University of Pittsburgh, I work in one of those professions, as we all do. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. If it was about what you know, there'd be a lot of guys on the street right now. Yeah. But I'm 56. The guys I know are either retired or dead, to be honest with you. I was offered an NFL job this year, but then again called the next day and said, I have to keep the guy who's here for another year, which is, like I said, it's the NFL. So you don't count on anything. So my wife and I and her son Fred decided to open up the New York Sports Center. It's personal training, it's performance enhancement. My wife does some booty bar classes. I gotta say booty bar. If I don't say booty bar, my wife will beat the piss out of me. And if you've seen my wife, she's 50 years old, but 54. She's a national finger competitor, and the other day doing dumbbell floor press, she hit the 50 for 7 reps, which ain't too bad for a 50-year-old woman, to be honest with you. So I had to mention booty bar. But there's plus and minuses to everything. You do what you got to do, and you make the best of it. If not, you got to keep swinging. If not, you might as well just roll over and die.
Yeah, well, like I was talking to you in the lobby before, I deal with a lot of shit at my current job.
Oh yeah, we all got to deal with something, and unfortunately, and being my own boss, the only person I have to answer to is my wife, which thank goodness we get along. We get along, but you control your own destiny, which is nice. But again, I'd rather be walking a sideline.
Yeah.
You know, there's something to be said about being in that environment because you're separate from the whole world. You know, you're in a different world as people prepare for a common goal. And, you know, people just do their jobs, which really doesn't happen in society anymore.
Yeah. I guess here's one here for you, and this may bring a rant or it may not, but let's see. Your state of physical preparation as a whole right now in America as far as the sports go, you know, not really any certain level, but just the entire thing all encompassing.
I think we do it wrong in this country.
Yeah.
I truly believe we're still talking about football being an alactic, an anaerobic sport, not even mentioning that it's alactic. You still have coaches out there that are telling their athletes, we lift weights the day after the game to clear lactic acid. If you're that goddamn dumb, you need to get out of the profession. The sport is not lactic. Where does the lactic acid come from? Even if it was lactic, the body will clear the lactic acid 20 to 30 minutes after cessation of the event. The reason you're sore the day after the game is from heightened emotional trauma due to the stress response of the game due to the sympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system. And people say, well, we practice. You practice the same as you play a game? I don't see people taking stimulants, banging their head off the wall, putting eye black on their face for practice.
Yeah.
So there's a completely different attitude towards practice and games. That's one of the things that drives me nuts. You still got guys, we're lifting weights today to clear the lactic acid from your body. You can't be that archaic and you can't be that dumb.
Yeah.
You know, so I truly believe the Soviets, the Bulgarians, the Poles, the East Germans, the Russians, the Soviets, now the Chinese have it figured out.
Yeah.
We haven't figured it out yet. We haven't figured out because our egos are too big to admit we're wrong. We haven't won an Olympic gold medal since 1968. Irv Szymanski won a bronze. Now you would think, Gabe, in all that time frame, everybody look at each other and say, well, you know what, guys?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we need to change something here.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want to hear the drug excuse. Drugs are everywhere. Belco Labs in San Francisco is not Kiev, Moscow. Those drugs are available to every athlete on the international level. So stop using that excuse. Use the excuse that maybe what we're doing isn't wrong. Don't start telling me, well, we don't have that much of a selective pool. Nobody gets involved in the sport. That's all bull. It's all excuses. Yeah. It's time to stop the excuses and say, you know what? Maybe what we're doing isn't right. Let's do this the right way, and let's turn around and start doing things differently what we have in the past. Because what we're doing in the past ain't worked. The true definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. And that's what it is.
Yeah. I know now you did touch on something right here, and this is going to be my next question. As far as like the recruiting and selection of athletes into the college football,
let me first of all, let me tell you this. If you're at a big money school and you're getting the top recruits, how hard is that?
Yeah.
Because I did it. 1980 at the University of Pittsburgh, we were 11-1 3 years in a row. The hardest thing I did, turn on the lights and open the door. Because the athleticism of the athlete took up. Football just isn't about strength. If it was all about strength, it'd be easy. But at some point in time, getting too strong becomes a detriment to the athlete. It's still the most important criteria, the most overlooked, is still the ability to play the game.
Yeah.
If you get athletes who can play the game, like they do down in the Southeast Conference, it's not too hard. You know, teach them technique, you motivate them, work them, but their athleticism takes over. You know, you're not going to get those types of athletes at the University of Pittsburgh, so you're not going to win a national championship there. You can be in the top 25 every year, and every fourth or fifth year maybe sneak into the top 10 or the top 15, but you don't have the resources to compete with the Alabamas, the Texases, the LSUs, the Oklahomas. They're getting the superior product, and when you're getting a superior product, you just don't screw them up. You're going to win.
Yeah, no,
you know?
I know. That's the one thing I've seen too with a lot of coaches when they're talking about, like, I know at the high school where I'm at, they go, what's Alabama do with their strength and conditioning? What do they do? I'm like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter with Alabama, yeah.
Because I know the one guy had a copy of one of their programs. He's like, maybe we should put some of this stuff in. I was like, our fucking kids aren't Alabama.
Oh my God, that's
like, the
biggest thing we under your level, Gabe, in the beginning level is development. You got to develop kids. You got to set a firm foundation. You got to increase their GPP because there is no sporting form. They're just learning the sport. They're not going to develop a sporting form until they start to get in college, and the intensity of the activity, the speed of the game, everything now becomes is more and more important, becomes at a heightened level. But now you've started to learn the game. So you're moving from that unconscious incompetent stage to conscious incompetent, where you're starting to learn it. Then comes conscious competent, where you understand it, but every once in a while you have to be coached. And finally, we get to the NFL level, it's unconscious competent. It just happens, you know? And as an athlete, you want to be hindbrain dominant, fast and reactive. Guys that are forebrain dominant, slow and analytical. I always tell my athletes, I'll think, you train. It don't work the other way around.
Yeah.
That's my rant.
All right, here's one for you. 'Cause I know this is something with myself. It kind of drives me nuts. This is where I go on a rant sometimes. Around our area, there's a guy that peddles combines to local high school kids and
takes their money.
Runs a fucking combine and asks kids that are on the free lunch program to pay him $75 to come run in a parking lot at some high school off the interstate.
You know,
and I know, what's your opinion on all these things? Because it's
listen, if you're good enough, colleges are going to find you.
That's what I tell my
Your
kids.
performance speaks for itself. These guys that go out and run all these, it's just a money-making venture for them, because 3/4 of the kids that go there really shouldn't be there. You know, if you're that good, colleges are going to find you.
Yeah.
Your athleticism is going to take over on the field, in the sporting environment, the sporting activity that you choose to participate in. I think those are just a waste of time, and like I said, somebody's making a lot of money.
Yeah, no, that's
And
what
it ain't me, and it ain't you.
Yeah, that's because I tell my kids the same thing. I know me and the other coaches were talking. I was like, maybe I'm in the wrong business.
Yeah, maybe you and I should put together a combine and just say, you know, $250. We'll time your kid in the 40, and we'll send all this information out to colleges. Really?
I know for me, the kids that always want to go to are the ones that has no chance of getting that scholarship.
Yeah, no, it's at some point in time, you know, here's the problem in this country, and I'm going to go on another rant. I call it the musical chair syndrome. When I was growing up, you had 30 kids, you had 29 chairs. You fought like hell to get that last chair. If you didn't get it, you sat your ass down in a corner and dealt with it. Nowadays, 30 kids, 30 chairs, everybody gets a chair, and we're going to talk about how you feel when we're done.
Yeah.
And if you don't like the chair, we'll get you a new chair. That ain't fucking reality.
Nah.
And then we wonder why we have this generation of entitlement. There's the reason why right there.
Yeah.
You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger said it best. You have to experience failure. Do not be afraid to fail. But everybody wants to keep these kids away from failure so they don't experience what reality is anymore.
Yeah.
At some point in time, you got to give somebody a dose of reality and just say, you know what? I have a kid that was coming to our facility, 27 years old. Never been in an NFL camp. Never. Still trying to live the dream. I said, you know what? You need to get on with life work. It ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's just face reality now. You ain't going to make the big buck. The dream is over. You know, grow up and do something with yourself.
No, I know. I see it on a daily basis with our kids and
everybody's
calling us, asking why we haven't gotten their son a scholarship. It's
yeah. Everybody's going to that next level.
Yeah,
everybody.
Everyone thinks they're going to the NFL, and I know when we were at Pitt, the kids would always talk about the league.
Yeah, the league. 1% makes it to the league. 1 to 2%. Yeah.
Let me think here. Okay, here's one. I know. With books, as far as some of the best things you think anyone could read that's in this profession, I know me and you, when I worked for you, talked back and forth about that a lot. But
I think the best book to read, and again, a lot of the things that are written in the book are wrong, but Hans Selye draws attention and coined the word stress. How does the body respond to stress? Training is a stimuli, is a stressor to the human body. The stress of training is a greater stressor to the human body than that of a broken bone because it encompasses the entire system. It affects the cardiac, cardiopulmonary, detoxification, hormonal, metabolical, central nervous system, and neuromuscular systems, and I'm going to add one more system, the immune system. That's all affected by training. And those systems do not recover at the same time. So I think, you know, that's an important book. Zatsorgsky's book, The Science and Practice of Strength Training, is a great book. It's an easy read. Assurance books on block training, but you know, you have to or an athletic training concepts, you have to understand this, the sport of football is not block training. It's impossible. Yeah. There's too many technical and tactical requirements by each position that have to be addressed. Too many biomotor abilities, you can't block them. So, I mean, it's a great book because it talks about residual effects of training, and again, just increases your knowledge. Anything written by Bondarchuk. I've read the hard stuff, I've read the easy stuff, Gabe. I think the key is you've constantly got to read. You got to constantly seek information because as I've said before, if you limit your knowledge, you limit your ability. If you limit your ability, you limit the development of your athletes. Unfortunately, in this country, we have truly forgotten how to train anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's too watered down. Everybody's going to go. We got to screen this. You got to screen that. You know, here's what you do: just watch your athletes move. The eye says a lot. You know, anybody can do something in slow motion, but start to stress them mechanically and watch how things change. You know, that's all. I'm not into the screen stuff either.
Yeah.
I don't buy into that.
I know. I'm not a big fan of it either.
No, it's just another money-making adventure. I understand the concept. I understand where it's going, but I don't. You know, you can't use the same screen for the general public it's used for an athlete. That's absurd. Yeah. That it really, and then you have to look at different classifications of athletes. Is he a beginner or is he an elite? Too many other variables that you can't control or can't take into account.
And any closing remarks you'd like to put in?
You know, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and here's what I've come to understand, and here's what I've figured out. First of all, I ain't figured it out. I don't think anybody ever will. I think you have to understand that training by nature is imperfect. By that I mean all the variables we had to manipulate as strength coaches. Sets, reps, tempo or speed of contraction, vertical, horizontal loading, sequence of events, exercise selection, single versus multiple sets, whether I train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, how many times a week I train. All these variables have their own benefits and own drawbacks. There's not one perfect variable. Thus, if there's not going to be one perfect variable, there can't be one perfect program. You look at the Soviets and the Bulgarians, they both used different programs but achieved elite status in international weightlifting. Many roads lead to Rome, nothing is set in stone. And with that being said, science is important. But too many people get caught up in science to where they can't see the forest through the trees. Remember this, science seeks answers, training seeks results. There's a gap. How can I bridge that gap? And that's about it.
All right, well, it was good talking with you.
Gabe, it was good seeing you again. It's nice to see you with hair.
Thanks.